You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Thank you for joining me for our second day of the Cabral HouseCall. Excited, as always, to get into our questions. We, of course, have some great ones this weekend. Hopefully, you tuned in yesterday. Let me do a quick recap. We went over the right type of multivitamin to choose, no matter what the age. We went over specific antioxidants for the eye and for eye-based inflammation. What else do we go over? We went over hemoglobin A1C numbers, how to rebalance out the blood sugar, when to retest that. We went over what to do for gas, for bloating, when that's been going on for quite some time. And we also looked at a nutritional supplement brand that I don't necessarily recommend, but I gave you the specific reasons why. So I never like to talk negatively about any type of brand or any type of product, but I always give you the reason why. So if someone asks, I'm going to give you an answer. And so that's what you got yesterday. Tune into that by simply going to stephencabral.com/podcast for all the previous podcasts I've done, or go to stephencabral.com/715, which is the direct podcast link for that show. Now, today we are on episode 716. So all the show notes, all the links, everything from today's show will be available at stephencabral.com/716. All right, let's get right into the first question. It's a new question today. I always love the new questions when they come in. And this one is from Mariellen. She writes in, "Thank you for all you do. I have had a pilonidal cyst for the past 3 weeks that has been so painful. It hurts to sit. I cannot lay on my back when I go to sleep at that point. I sit all day at my job, 40 hours a week, 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, 5 days a week. I'm 23 and female. I have no dairy or gluten in my diet. I'm very sensitive to sugar and recently feel as if I have candida. I really do not want to get this drained. I have had this before, but I feel like it went away on its own. Maybe just never was this bad. It's embarrassing, and I am looking for more of a natural route. I do not want to live like this, but I am in so much pain. Everything I do irritates it." Okay. So a pilonidal cyst is also called and typically referred to as a pilonidal sinus. Okay. So what is that? Well, if for everyone out there who doesn't know what it is, because it's not that common, what it is actually a cyst or a formation or actually a sore at the top of the gluteal cleft. Now, the top of your gluteal cleft is just literally, I don't know the best way to say this, but the top of the crack in your glutes, that area right there, which is also called the coccygeal area, which is the bottom of the spine. A cyst can form and can actually open up. It can become an open wound. Now, think about how irritating that would be, how uncomfortable that would be, and really, really tough to live with. So, Mariellen, I completely feel for you. This is something terrible. You certainly do not want to live with this. Let's give you some advice on where to start. Okay. Now, the typical conventional medicine thought for why this occurs could be from too much sitting during the day, not enough exercise, or an ingrown hair. Now, I can agree with that. But remember, if this was the case, well, why don't millions of people in the world have this? Because they don't. So we have to look deeper. We have to ask, okay, well, why with these particular people? So there's a few reasons why. So for a lot of people, the bacteria on the skin can become imbalanced. They can get a little bit more moisture in that area. So, well, my first recommendation is this. If your goal, if you need to really lose weight to be at a healthy weight, that's one of my first recommendations. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is that really look into, you mentioned it, candida and bacterial overgrowth. Now, candida, yes, it's most common, obviously, in the intestines, but candida overgrowth or fungal-based overgrowth can affect any area of the body that can be more moisture-based driven, and that part of the body can be more moisture-based driven between the gluteal fold or the gluteal cleft, which is that crack in your bum right there. So that's one place to look at it. Now, the other place that candida can go up is anytime in the armpits and the ears, under the ear. So think about it. Any dry, or any, I should say, any moist area that's also in a dark place is a perfect place for fungus to grow. So my highest recommendation is first just to make sure that we're rebalancing that area If it's not an open wound, I recommend a little bit of grapefruit seed extract mixed with a little bit of sesame oil or olive oil or tea tree oil, which is one of the best ways to kill fungus as well in that area. Diatomaceous clay, a lot of people use that. What else can I recommend for you? Because I want to make sure that you get some help here. Run an organic acids test and a food sensitivity test, okay? Organic acids test would be most important than a food sensitivity test to see what might be causing these underlying inflammatory-based issues. Organic acids test, of course, hopefully you know by now, that will test for your candida levels and your bacterial-based levels and any type of intestinal permeability or leaky gut. What else? Keep the area dry. Use any type of natural-based talc powder for right now. That would be fine. If you can't run the lab test because just can't afford it right now, I would go right into the candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. I would do probably the Dr. Ball detox at the same time or right before this candida and bacterial overgrowth. And then specifically, just to try to boost the immune system, I would most likely be doing a little bit extra vitamin C, whether that's the full spectrum vitamin C or the alkalizing vitamin C powder, and a little bit of extra zinc. That is what I would recommend. Both of those are great for the skin as well. Mariellen, I wish you the best. I know you'll get better. You can absolutely get better from a natural-based perspective. And both the topical and internal recommendations I gave you hopefully set you well on your way. Okay, Anonymous is up next. Anonymous writes in, "Hi, Dr. Ball. Happy holidays. I'm in my late 20s and I've been experiencing chronic red eyes since I was a teenager. They don't hurt or itch. And my vision is excellent, but they're always red. I use Clear Eyes or Visine eye drops every single day for the past decade to get the red out. I get close to 8 hours of sleep every day. I'm physically fit and fairly clean diet, no processed foods, dairy, gluten-free, cheat meal 1 to 2 times a week. Both my parents occasionally have red eyes, but not as severe as mine. I've had full blood work done by various PCPs since my early 20s, and the results have been outstanding. The red eyes don't necessarily bother me, but people often ask me if I'm tired or my eyes just look like I smoked marijuana. Laughing out loud. LOL. Can this be part of an underlying health issue? Love your work, Anonymous." Okay. So we've got a bunch of things this can be. One, you can actually be having a food sensitivity to a healthy food. So we can run a food sensitivity test for that. That will help you out. Or this could be a histamine-based issue, meaning that you could be eating healthy foods such as oranges and other citrus-based fruits like lemon. You could be having spices, healthy spices too, like cinnamon. That could be histamine-based. You could be having smoked foods. You could be having fermented foods. All of these things could cause redness. Check that out. Big thing to ask is, are your eyes red when you wake up first thing in the morning? If they are, well, you could be sensitive to dust mites in the bed. You could use a dust mite pillowcase for that. You could look into environmental-based allergens, such as dust, mold, grass, pollen, all the typical ones. Check that out because that can lead to red eyes. So obviously allergies, food or environmental. Try to see if there's any time of the day that they aren't red. Are they less red at night? Are they less red when you're at work rather than when you're at home? You might need a good air filter. Again, just go to stevencabral.com/podcast and just type in air filter in the search box. You can find that out. So you check that out. It could be inflammation of the arteries, inflammation of the capillaries. That's always important to look at. If you've run your homocysteine, well, then that's great. If you've run an omega-3 test would be great to run. You could check that out. You could run a leaky gut test. You can run an organic acids test to check that out, meaning that you'll be able to figure it out. You really will, but you need to do a process of elimination. Is it food sensitivity? Is it an environmental sensitivity? Is it a histamine, a mastocytosis-based issue? Is it inflammation in the arteries and capillaries, which would then show up in the eyes as well? Is it stress? Is it just from staring at a computer screen? Again, you would know that if you first woke up and your eyes weren't red, then you would give you the indicator. So do a little detective work. You'll be able to figure that out. Jill is up next. You mentioned on a podcast that when you studied in India, you helped make capsules that had hot spices in them to balance the Kapha body type. I know hot and spicy foods can help, but I don't prefer eating them. Can you recommend something similar that you made in India that we have access to in America? All right. Thank you for this question. And I'm always excited to talk about my time when I was in India multiple times and also in Sri Lanka, where Sri Lanka actually was the exact location where I made the majority of the oils and capsules over there. So I actually spent time, since I was one of the lowly interns over there. I was actually, a lot of times, of course, I was working with people and patients in that specific clinic, but I was spending a lot of time actually preparing the concoctions. We call them concoctions. And those were the herbals, the specific things. We actually made custom herbal-based products for each individual in the clinic, which was pretty amazing. So we started with the base of foundation, and then we would add other items to that. Now, I can just tell you, obviously, they were customized over there, but the product that we would typically give to any of the Kapha body types, the Kapha body type would be We want to remove some of that mucus, that congestion, the water in the body, as well as to help with the thermogenic effect and burn some body fat. We would use a product that was very similar to what's called Trikatu, and that's Trikatu. And this is an anti-Kapha-based herbal product. It also helps with digestion. So you would typically take it after a meal or during the meal. If anybody gets heartburn, you would take it during the meal, mid-meal with food. And what it is, it contains heating spices. So the predominant spices that you would do to be anti-Kapha, and there are many, many different formulas, and there are some very advanced ones. But really what I want to do is I always break things down to actionable steps. Now, Pipili is the main pepper. It's called a long pepper. So the other name is long pepper, but it's Papili, and that's how we pronounce it in India and Sri Lanka, as well as ginger and also black pepper. So it was those three, Pipili, and it was ginger, and it was black pepper. So obviously really great for digestion, very heating, and that would help to also remove a lot of that mucus by adding heat to the body. Now, if you can't find those, you could use ginger individually. That's why I always in my practice I'm recommending hot ginger tea. Any heating spices would work. Mustard, cayenne, those would work as well. Okay, Chris is up next. Hey, Dr. Cabral, I feel a little stuck as to finding the best diet for myself. I'm 26 years old, 6'1", 175 pounds. I eat a fairly high protein diet, 30 to 40% of all my calories, because that's where I find I feel best. I know a high protein diet can be hard on the kidneys and overall health, but when I eat higher carbs, I get sleepy, insulin spikes. When I try to switch to higher fat, I notice my skin gets really oily. I have PPARGCC gene, which I'm pretty sure affects body fat and carb metabolism. And according to DNA fit results based on my genes, I have medium sensitivity to fat metabolism, high sensitivity to carbohydrates. So I'm not exactly sure what a good macronutrient split would be for me. Any insight is much appreciated. Thanks for everything you do. You are my go-to for all things health and wellness. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. And I just want to let you know that, so here's the thing. We run genetic testing all the time. I'm going to link up the genetic test that we recommend. A lot of these ones are nice, they're cute, they're fun. But what I want to do is I want to look at multiple genetic markers. So the one we run literally looks at over 100 different genetic markers. It's 99 pages. It is absolutely insanely amazing. And it shows you that sometimes one parent gave you this and sometimes one parent gave you that. And so when does it matter? Well, it matters based on lifestyle and environment. So it's very interesting. It depends on where you're at oftentimes, a lot of times in your life right now, based on what your genes are doing. Because remember, it is your lifestyle, it is your diet that is unlocking the genes in your body that's allowing for the expression of those genes. So having said that, if you are a Pitta body type, which you very well may be, 30% protein could be okay. Now, keep in mind, the longest lived populations did seem to be around 10% of their diet from protein. But as someone who's 26 years old, may be very active, at this time in your life, 30% protein might be acceptable. Would I go higher than that? Probably not. That's probably the max. A zone-based diet might be closer to perfect for you, which would be 40% carbs, 30% protein, 30% fat. That very well may work great for you, and your 40% from carbs might be best served with predominantly vegetables and then a little bit of berries in your smoothie in the morning and maybe a little bit of sweet potato or starch at lunch. Again, you're going to find out what works best for you. I do still recommend 2 to 3 cups of fruits or vegetables at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You're going to have to find that carbohydrate tolerance. I've spoken about that many times on the Cabral concept, and I also preach about that with the Dr. Cabral Detox. As people are coming off of that, now they're adding fruit back to the smoothie. Now they might be adding some starch back to lunch. See what your body tolerates. Seem like you might be at a great weight, 6'1", 175 pounds. So you might be doing great as you are. You might have to just dip that protein just a little bit. I would certainly recommend a digestive enzyme, the daily digestive enzyme, if you are doing 30+% protein. And that's because you want to make sure that protein is not putrefying in your intestines and then not allowing for good digestion. If you're worried about your kidneys, you probably want to run an organic acids test to look to see if you're spilling out bacteria or yeast or anything like that into your blood. And the other thing would be running your blood work on an annual basis just to make sure that your BUN, your BUN, and creatinine levels and albumin levels and all that look good to make sure those kidneys are not being taxed. I think that's probably a lot of information, and hopefully that helps, Chris. At least it's going to get you started in the right place. Okay, Kevin's up next. Hi, my name is Kevin, and I was wondering what books you recommend to learn more about nutrition, how it impacts the body, especially from a training aspect. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, so I've answered this over the last couple weeks. One that I recommended was called The Food Connection. Cool place to start. I actually, of course, I don't believe in everything. Sometimes a book spouts out, meaning like, in that book, it talks about having a little bit of white bread before bed because it increases serotonin. And while that may be true, it's certainly not a health-based benefit. And you can get your serotonin boost in other ways. But The Food Connection by, I want to say the author's name is Sam Grassi. I have to get better at memorizing the author's names of all these great books. It's funny, I can memorize and retain all the information in the book, but the author's name sometimes gets lost to me, but I have to do a better job of that. But The Food Connection, great place to start. Really enjoy the book. It's just his overall nutritional-based advice. In terms of certification, if you're a fitness pro out there, Dr. John Berardi's Precision Nutrition. A lot of my personal trainers on my team have gone through that. I've spoken with John Berardi many times. Really great guy. I believe he's a PhD in nutrition. Very, very smart. And I fall in line with a lot of what they recommend. So we're on the same page for a lot of things. So those are two that I would recommend, and definitely check back out a few podcasts ago because I did give specific recommendations on things like the Anti-Inflammatory Diet Plan, which is another great book to read by Monica Reingal, and a few others. So there's some great ones. Just check back on previous podcasts on that, and you'll get all that information. That should set you well on your way. All right, next question is from Nicole. It's a long one. So we are going to, it doesn't hold a record, but it's a long one. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you the synopsis of it, and then anybody who wants to check it out, go to stephencabral.com/716. You'll be able to read the whole question. It says, Dr. Cabral, I've been listening to your shows for a few weeks now, and I've been really enjoying it. For the past 7 years, I've been experiencing confusing symptoms, which have continually gotten worse over the past couple of years. I've seen acupuncturists, chiropractors, a lot of different doctors. Constipated, I currently have one incomplete bowel movement a day. Tried a few different things like probiotics and a little bit of magnesium and laxatives and psyllium husk. They work for small periods of time and then they don't work. I have bloating, which comes with muscle aches and some weakness, tightness in the hip flexors, general overall weakness. I had my food sensitivities tested, followed that for about 6 months with no change in symptoms. I got a complete blood panel done about a half a year ago. I barely have any estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone in the body. The ND started taking supplements to calm and support my brain and progesterone. Most of my symptoms started to clear up. However, about 3 months in, they all returned. Then I saw an ND who had me take estradiol every night and progesterone days 14 to 26. I noticed an increase in energy. My period came back, but a different doctor told me I was taking too much estradiol and told me to stop. And my period has not returned. Saw our endocrinologist. So basically going on to say there's all sorts of hormone disruption and gut-based issues. Okay, we can fix this. We can. And you can fix it with, again, it doesn't have to be me. It could be another naturopathic doctor. It could be another functional medicine doctor. But you have to look at the core of what's going on. So you got results. You got results because you replaced low levels of estrogen and then low levels of progesterone. And you took the progesterone exactly how you should, days 14 to 26 or days 14 to 28, a ramp up hopefully and a ramp down. But again, that's just symptomatic relief. That's giving your body back a little bit of what it's missing. What we really want to figure out is what's stressing out the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, which is then affecting the endocrine system, which is then causing inflammation as well on the body. So we call this neuroendoimmunology. And if you're a functional medicine practitioner out there or a health coach, you want to check this out. I'll be talking more about this in the future. I certainly do plan, I haven't talked about this before, but I do plan on teaching other health professionals in the future. I want to be able to get a little bit more in depth on these science-based topics and really be able to help other practitioners work better with their patients and their wellness clients. So this is called neuroendoimmunology. And again, it's the nervous system affecting the endocrine system, affecting the immune system. And what happens is all of this can become dysregulated. So there's certainly some type of rebound effect. The rebound effect is causing you to have low androgens or low anabolic hormones in the body. That would be DHEA, it would be testosterone, it would be estrogen, and it would be progesterone. Typically, we'll start with no more than DHEA. And the reason we'll do that is that we'll now allow your body to have enough DHEA, which is the sex hormone-based pathway, to allow your body to use what it needs for cortisol-based production. In turn, that should then allow or hopefully save some progesterone of its own. However, it's still symptomatic-based. We still have to fix what's going on with thyroid and adrenal-based function. So my recommendation is to run a thyroid, adrenal, hormone-based panel. And I would look deep. I would look at T4, T3, and TPO antibodies along with those cortisol levels throughout the day. So that's my first recommendation. My second recommendation is to absolutely check for SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and candida overgrowth using an organic acids test. And then I would run a stool-based test. I would want to make sure that you don't have E. coli overgrowth. I want to make sure that you don't have H. pylori. If you have H. pylori, you are not going to produce, most likely, the stomach acid that you need. If you don't produce the stomach acid that you need, then your body's not going to then, in turn, produce enough bile. And if you don't produce enough bile, you're going to have a sluggish intestinal pathway or colon. If that happens, you're going to be constipated. If that happens, you're going to have putrefaction and bacterial overgrowth in your intestines. All of that then can make you feel more irritable, which can then, in tune, signal your nervous system to become inflamed, which can then affect your endocrine system, which is your hormones as well. That was probably way too complicated. I apologize about that, but sometimes I do like to really get into the science. I know oftentimes I hold back on the science and I hold back on the pathology of disease. The only reason I do that is because I don't believe that it serves you most. Remember, my job is to serve, and I don't believe a lot of times talking like that does the most good for everyone. So, but sometimes I just feel the need to get that out there. So you've worked with lots of naturopathic doctors. You can then request the organic acids test. You can request the stool test, and you can request the thyroid hormone adrenal panel. If you want to do it through us, you're welcome to. You don't have to, but if you do it through us, of course, you'll get my recommendations, and then you'll also speak with one of our health coaches. And if you run more than one lab, that'll be a 60-minute call, which will really get in depth with you. So that would be a great opportunity. If you chose to do that, completely up to you. And to make that, I guess, a little bit more succinct, what I would like to do is correct any gut-based abnormalities. I would correct any digestive-based abnormalities. First of all, starting with digestive enzymes. And for you, I would probably use 2 digestive enzymes per meal. The daily digestive enzyme is the best place to start since it's very multifaceted. It would help with protein, fat, and carbohydrate digestion and multiple carbohydrates, which means it has different like xylanase and different types of ACEs, which break down all different types of carbs as well. So they're not as fermentable in the gut. That's a great place to start. And then, of course, I would recommend our constipation protocol along with the Dr. Cabral daily protocol to start your day. And that's going to super hydrate your body. And you're going to be doing a smoothie every morning and your daily greens. That's the place that will at least get started. And then, run the lab test and then get started with that. Then about 3 or 4 weeks later, you get your results back and you get a customized protocol for you. That was a big answer. It was a big question. I hope that helps. I really do. I know that, Nicole, you've been suffering for a while. I want to make sure you get the help that you deserve because you do deserve it. Everybody deserves to be well, and they deserve not to have like the runaround. But remember, everyone's trying to do their best for you. Keep in mind that no one is wrong. Everyone's trying to do their best from their perspective. I just know that since I've seen this hundreds of times that we can help you as well. I'm going to keep it there because that was a big question, and I do hope it served you well. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into another weekend of the Cabral HouseCall. Really appreciate it. And as always, if you have immediate questions that need to be answered, please go to cabralsupportgroup.com. Not on orders, not on anything like that. But if you need help, if you need support, if you're like, okay, which lab test should I run? I'm experiencing this. Feel free to go to cabralsupportgroup.com. My health coaches are always answering questions, and so am I. And a lot of times, again, I'm giving them those answers. And so remember, I'm always looking at every single question. If you want your question read, and if you want me to give an in-depth answer, do always feel free to submit it to our Cabral House Calls, which is at stephencabral.com/Ask Cabral. Thank you once again. Please do feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could help. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow where we have another Mindset and Motivation Monday, one of my favorite shows of the week. Check back for that. Take care. Are you ready to heal yourself and then go on to heal others? If so, the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute can help you discover proven functional medicine protocols that blend the best of 7 different healing disciplines from around the world. I personally share with you the exact handouts and protocols I use in my private practice that enable people to get well, lose the weight, and live longer, stronger. I want to pass this information on to the next generation of health coaches, and that is exactly why I created IHP. We are the future of the health coaching industry, and the skills and knowledge you will learn will make you an in-demand certified health coach anywhere in the world. Although we have many medical professionals taking the IHP certifications, no experience is necessary, and half our members have no previous health certifications. At the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, our motto is a health coach in every home. Our goal is that you take this knowledge and then share it with family,
friends, loved ones, your community, or in a practice where you create a career you love and can be proud of. The global IHP community is filled with some of the most kind and caring people in the world, and we can't wait to welcome you into our world soon. For more information or to set up a discovery call with one of our IHP Health Coach graduates, simply head over to integrativehealthpractitioner.org.